Mark, hello Transport Evolved. It's Thursday already and that means it's my turn for another thought of the day. Well, we've just got into filling in the little gaps, so I'm just going to carry on with filling in the gaps with a few thoughts based on your previous thoughts from a couple of days ago. Why don't we have multiple inlets on EVs? Well, Mark, cost. The more inlets, the higher the cost, and the more the end user has to pay because, let's face it, the automaker is not going to pay for it, are they? I like the idea of the cord being attached to the car, Mark, and in fact one of my earliest EVs, the Volkswagen City Stromer, had a cable attached to it and you just pulled the cable out the front of the car and plugged it into a wall outlet. But when you started talking about vacuum cleaners, Mark, all I could get in my head was those little vacuum cleaners with the button that when you press it, it makes the cord come zooming back into the car. I mean vacuum cleaner, but you see my point. I'd love that in my car. I should also add very quickly that only the EU has untethered cables. The rest of the world is, as far as I can tell, tethered, which means we're the odd ones out and we're a bit crazy anyway, aren't we? Tesla being scary, Mark, I think you're right. Tesla is a disruptive technology. You didn't actually say those words, but that's pretty much what you alluded to in your reply. But you mentioned shopping and the fact that you no longer shop in person. I think that's partly because shopping used to be a social interaction. I mean, you think about our parents or perhaps our grandparents. They went shopping because they had to, but they also went shopping for social interaction. These days we get our social interaction through any number of electronic virtual means, and so we don't feel compelled as much to interact with people on an everyday basis. At least I don't, and a lot of people prefer interacting like we are right now. I know you go to the shops for chocolate, Mark. That's the only thing you missed out, and you tell me that on a regular basis, so naughty man. Auto dealer associations are king here, because as we found out today, GM in Ohio has petitioned the Ohio Senate to pass anti-Tesla legislation. And that's not because GM gets on with its dealers, it's because GM needs its dealers and the dealers need GM. There's a symbiotic, uneasy relationship between the two, and actually auto dealers would be very upset if automakers went out of their way to cut them out of the equation. But automakers would be pretty happy if they no longer had to deal with auto dealers because, frankly, auto dealer unions are a bit of a pain in the you-know-where. Does Tesla want controversy? I'm going to disagree with you here, Mark. I'm going to say no, it doesn't. Tesla really just wants to change the world, and maybe I've got my rose-coloured spectacles on, but it seems that Tesla is more interested in the technology than it is anything else. At least, certainly that's been the message from Tesla this week. While controversy may sell Tesla some cars and may get more people interested in the company, I don't think that's the goal of Tesla being in the news. I don't think Tesla has a victim complex per se, and I think it would need to have one in order to monopolise on that kind of sentiment. The other thing that's worth mentioning here, Mark, is that Americans and Brits do handle things very, very differently. Americans like a bit of controversy, a little bit of underdog to champion behind in order to win the day. Brits, not so much so, especially if it's embroiled in regulatory brouhaha. Let me give you an example. Imagine you've run out of tea. The Brits would be inside going, oh dear, what a poor show, we've run out of tea. And they'd go and drink something else instead. The Americans would be outside protesting there wasn't any tea left. You get my drift. But what do I want to talk to you today about, Mark? Game changers. I mean, game-changing vehicles. Nissan this week announced the pricing of its ENV200 van, and it turns out, in Germany at least, it's going to cost around about the same as its all-electric Leaf hatchback. That's game-changing in terms of price. Nissan's been using the term game changer to describe the NV200 or the ENV200 for some time. But my question is, what makes an electric car, or a car for that matter, a game changer? I mean, Tesla was a game changer with the Roadster. It was a car that went further than any other electric car could go. It was revolutionary. It was a game changer because of its range. The Nissan Leaf was a game changer because it meant that people who were driving Priuses could suddenly drive and afford an electric car. The Chevrolet Volt was a game changer because it had this range extended engine which was never before offered. But they can't all be game changers, right? I mean, they can't all be game changers in the same field. I'd be interested to see what you think. I hope you have a really good day. I hope you have a really good weekend, and I will see you on Monday. Goodbye, Transport Evolved. Goodbye, Mark.